A billionaire's son fell deeply in love with a poor farm girl named Amara, a woman who had spent her entire life struggling to survive. But when his powerful father discovered their relationship, he refused to believe that someone from Amara's background could truly love his son. Convinced she was only after money, he secretly created a series of tests designed to expose her true intentions. What followed shocked everyone. Amara was offered gifts, wealth, comfort, and the chance to live a life most people only dream about. But with every temptation placed before her, she made a choice that left a billionaire questioning everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and character. Did Amara pass the test? Or did the billionaire father uncover a secret that would destroy her relationship forever? Stay until the end to witness the emotional twists, heartbreaking betrayals, and unforgettable moments that changed their lives forever. And if you enjoy powerful stories like this one, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you never miss another inspiring story. The first rays of sunlight had barely touched the rooftops of the small village when Amara was already awake. The 24-year-old sat on the edge of her narrow wooden bed and stretched her aching muscles. The tiny mud house around her was silent except for the distant crowing of roosters and the rustling of leaves outside. For a moment, she stared at the worn walls. This had once been her parents' home. Now it was all she had left of them. A small smile crossed her face as she remembered them. Her father had been a hard-working farmer, while her mother had been known throughout the village for her kindness. They had died when Amara was only 10 years old after a terrible illness swept through the region. Since then, she had survived alone. No brothers, no sisters, no relatives willing to care for her. Just Amara. The years had been difficult, but they had also shaped her into the woman she had become. She stood and tied her headscarf before stepping outside. The morning air was cool against her skin. As she walked toward the village well with a bucket balanced effortlessly on her shoulder, several women glanced in her direction. Some nodded politely, others whispered. Amara was used to it. She had spent years hearing the same comments. Look at her arms. She looks stronger than most men. No wonder she's still unmarried. Who wants a wife that can carry more than her husband? The words no longer hurt as much as they once had. At least that was what she told herself. The truth was that every cruel comment left a tiny wound behind. Not because she wanted everyone's approval, but because she had never asked to be different. Years of farm labor had given her broad shoulders and powerful arms. While other girls spent their afternoons learning crafts or chatting under trees, Amara had spent hers carrying sacks of cassava, digging fields, and hauling water. Her strength had helped her survive. Yet it had also made her an outsider. By the time she returned home, the village was fully awake. She cooked a small breakfast of yam and drank water before preparing for another day of work. Just as she finished eating, excited voices echoed through the dusty road outside. Several villagers hurried past her house. Curious, Amara stepped outside. "What is happening?" she asked. A middle-aged woman stopped. "You haven't heard?" "Heard what?" "The new farm." Amara frowned. "What new farm?" The woman looked surprised. "A wealthy businessman bought hundreds of acres beyond the eastern hills. They say it's the biggest farm in the region." Another villager joined the conversation. "And they are hiring workers. Lots of workers. The pay is double what ordinary farmers offer." Amara's eyes widened. Double? That would mean enough money to repair her leaking roof. Enough money to buy better food. Maybe even enough money to finally replace her torn mattress. "When are they hiring?" she asked quickly. "Today." The woman pointed toward the hills. "They're accepting workers this morning." Amara didn't waste another second. She grabbed her hoe and hurried toward the road. Along the way, dozens of villagers joined her. Men, women, young workers, older laborers. Everyone wanted a chance to earn the higher wages. The walk took nearly an hour. As the massive farmland finally came into view, gasps filled the crowd. The stories had not been exaggerated. The farm was enormous. Acres upon acres of rich land stretched toward the horizon. Large tractors sat near storage buildings. Workers moved everywhere. Supervisors organized groups and assigned tasks. Amara had never seen anything like it. "This place is huge," someone whispered. She nodded silently. After registering her name, she was directed toward a group of female workers. Most of the women were being assigned lighter tasks such as planting seedlings and sorting harvested crops. But Amara's eyes drifted toward the men's section. Several laborers were preparing to clear new land. The work involved digging, chopping roots, and turning hard soil. The toughest job on the farm. Without hesitation, she walked toward them. A supervisor blinked when he saw her. "You are in the wrong line." "No, sir." He pointed toward the women. "Your group is over there." Amara smiled politely. "I know." The supervisor looked confused. "Then why are you standing here?" "Because I want this assignment." Several men laughed. One of them shook his head. "Sister, this work is not easy." Another grinned. "You'll be crying before noon." The group burst into laughter. Amara simply picked up a hoe. "Then we'll find out." The supervisor stared at her for a moment before shrugging. "Suit yourself." The work began immediately. Under the growing heat of the sun, workers spread across the field. The men attacked the stubborn ground with their hoes. Amara joined them. At first, everyone expected her to fall behind. Instead, she shocked them. Her hoe rose and fell with powerful precision. Each strike broke through the hardened earth. Roots that slowed other workers barely seemed to affect her. Within an hour, several men were already breathing heavily. Amara continued without slowing down. By mid-morning, sweat covered her face. Her arms burned. Her back ached. But she kept going. Years of hardship had taught her that survival belonged to those who refused to quit. Nearby, some workers began staring. One man stopped digging completely. "How is she doing that?" Another shook his head. "I have no idea." A third worker laughed. "That woman isn't human." More laughter followed. But this time it wasn't mocking. It was admiration. As the day continued, Amara pushed herself harder. Every swing of her hoe represented something important. Food, shelter, hope. She wasn't working to impress anyone. She was working because she needed the job, needed the money, needed a better future. Far across the field, a luxury vehicle rolled to a stop. A tall man stepped out. He wore simple clothes, but there was an undeniable confidence about him. The supervisors immediately greeted him respectfully. His name was Obi. At 30 years old, he was the son of the billionaire who owned the farm. Unlike many wealthy men, Obi disliked sitting in offices all day. He preferred visiting projects personally. That morning, he had come to inspect operations. At first, he paid little attention to the workers. Then he noticed something unusual. A woman, working among the men, not struggling, not falling behind, leading. Obi frowned in curiosity. "Who is that?" he asked one of the supervisors. The supervisor followed his gaze. "Oh!" A smile appeared on the man's face. "That's Amara." "The new worker?" "Yes." Obi watched as she drove her hoe into the ground again and again. Several male workers nearby looked exhausted. Amara kept moving. "What makes her different?" Obi asked. The supervisor laughed. "We're trying to figure that out ourselves." For the next hour, Obi found himself watching her repeatedly. It wasn't just her strength. He had seen strong people before. There was something else. Determination, focus, humility. She worked harder than anyone else, yet she never boasted. When another worker struggled with a heavy load, she helped without being asked. When someone dropped tools, she picked them up. When others complained, she remained silent and kept working. The more Obi observed her, the more intrigued he became. As evening approached, the day's work finally ended. Workers stretched their aching bodies and prepared to leave. Amara wiped sweat from her face and picked up her belongings. She was exhausted. Every muscle in her body hurt. Yet she felt satisfied. She had worked hard. Maybe this opportunity would truly change her life. Just as she prepared to leave, a voice called out behind her. "Excuse me." She turned around. Standing before her was the tall man she had noticed earlier. Up close, he looked even more handsome. Well-dressed, confident, yet surprisingly approachable. "Yes?" she asked. The man smiled. "You worked harder than anyone here today." Amara blinked. "Thank you. I'm Obi." For a second, she froze. She had heard the supervisors mention that name. Her eyes widened slightly. "The owner's son?" Obi nodded. A nervous feeling settled inside her stomach. Why was someone like him talking to someone like her? Obi seemed amused by her reaction. "And you're Amara." Now it was her turn to look surprised. "You know my name?" I asked around. A faint smile appeared on her face. "Why?" Obi thought about the question. The honest answer was simple. Because he couldn't stop wondering about her. But he wasn't ready to admit that. Instead, he shrugged. "You stood out." Amara laughed softly. "I usually do." For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Neither understood why the conversation felt so easy, so natural. The sun was beginning to set behind the hills, bathing the farm in golden light. Around them, workers slowly disappeared down the road. Still, neither seemed eager to leave. Finally, Obi smiled. "I hope I'll see you tomorrow." Amara adjusted the hoe resting on her shoulder. "You probably will." Then she turned and began walking home. Obi watched her disappear into the distance. Something about her lingered in his mind. The strength, the kindness, the quiet determination. For reasons he couldn't explain, he knew this would not be the last conversation they shared. Meanwhile, Amara walked along the dusty road toward her tiny house. A gentle breeze brushed against her face. For the first time in a long while, she found herself smiling. She wasn't sure why. Perhaps it was because she had found a better-paying job. Or perhaps it was because of the unexpected conversation with Obi. Either way, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Neither of them knew it yet. But this ordinary day on a farm had just begun a journey that would change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Amara woke before sunrise as she always did. The village was still wrapped in darkness when she stepped outside her small mud house. The air was cool, and a light mist hovered over the narrow dirt paths that connected the homes. She carried a bucket to the well and drew water before returning home to prepare for work. As she washed her face, her thoughts drifted unexpectedly to the previous evening. To Obi, she immediately shook her head. Why was she thinking about him? He was the son of a billionaire, a wealthy, educated man who probably spent time with politicians, business owners, and important people. She was a poor farm worker who struggled to repair her leaking roof. Their worlds were completely different. Besides, she had only spoken to him once. Yet somehow, she found herself remembering his smile. The way he had looked genuinely interested in what she had to say. The way he hadn't stared at her muscles or laughed about how she worked. Most people noticed her strength first. Obi had seemed to notice her. The thought made her smile. Then she quickly pushed it away and headed for the farm. By the time she arrived, workers were already gathering. The sun had begun rising above the hills, casting golden light across the vast farmland. Amara immediately grabbed her tools and joined the men assigned to clear another section of land. The work was exhausting, but hard work had never frightened her. What surprised her was seeing Obi arrive only an hour later. He stepped out of his vehicle and began speaking with several supervisors. For some reason, her heart skipped a beat. She frowned at herself. What was wrong with her? She quickly focused on her work. Still, she couldn't help noticing when Obi glanced in her direction, and she definitely noticed when he smiled. Several hours later, the workers stopped for lunch beneath a cluster of large trees. Amara sat alone under the shade and opened the small food container she had brought from home. Inside was a simple meal of boiled yam and vegetables. Nothing special, just enough to keep her going. She had barely taken 2 bites when a shadow appeared beside her. Looking up, she saw Obi. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. Amara almost choked on her food. "Of course not." Obi sat beside her. Nearby workers immediately began staring. Some whispered among themselves. Others openly watched. After all, it wasn't every day the owner's son sat beside an ordinary laborer. Amara suddenly felt self-conscious. "You don't have to sit here," she said quietly. Obi looked confused. "Why not? People are watching." He laughed. "Let them watch." Amara couldn't help smiling. There was something refreshing about how little he seemed to care about what others thought. For the next 20 minutes, they talked. At first, the conversation was simple. Where had she grown up? How long had she been farming? Did she enjoy the work? Then the conversation became deeper. Amara found herself sharing stories she rarely told anyone. She told him about her parents, about losing them when she was 10, about learning to survive alone. She spoke calmly, but Obi could hear the pain hidden beneath her words. "I'm sorry," he said sincerely. Amara shrugged. "It happened a long time ago. That doesn't mean it stopped hurting." The statement caught her off guard. Most people simply changed the subject whenever she mentioned her parents. Obi actually seemed to understand. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Amara smiled softly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For listening." Something about those words stayed with Obi long after lunch ended. The afternoon passed quickly. As usual, Amara outworked almost everyone. And as usual, Obi found himself watching her. Not because of her strength anymore, because of her character. The more he learned about her, the more fascinated he became. That evening, after work ended, Obi approached her again. They talked for nearly half an hour before Amara finally began the long walk home. As she disappeared down the road, Obi realized something surprising. He was already looking forward to seeing her again. The days turned into weeks, and a routine quietly developed between them. Every morning, Obi found an excuse to visit the farm. Every afternoon, he looked for opportunities to speak with Amara. Every evening, they spent time together before she headed home. Their conversations became the highlight of their days. One afternoon, Obi arrived carrying 2 bottles of cold water. He handed one to Amara. She stared at it suspiciously. "What is this?" "Water." "I know it's water." Obi laughed. "Then why are you looking at it like it's dangerous?" Amara shook her head. "Because nobody gives me things for free." For a moment, Obi's smile faded. That simple statement revealed so much about her life. A life where every meal, every piece of clothing, every small comfort had been earned through hard work. "You deserve nice things too, Amara." She looked away. Nobody had ever said that to her before. As the weeks passed, the friendship between them continued growing. Soon they were talking about everything. Dreams, fears, childhood memories, future goals. One evening, they sat beneath a large tree overlooking the fields. The workers had already gone home. The setting sun painted the sky orange and gold. Obi leaned back against the trunk. "If you could have anything in the world, what would it be?" Amara thought carefully. "A family." The answer surprised him. "You don't want money?" "Money helps." "A big house." "It would be nice." "What about traveling?" She smiled. "I've never even left this region." Obi laughed. "Then why a family?" Amara stared toward the horizon. For a long moment she didn't answer. "When my parents died, I lost everything." Her voice was soft. "Since then, every day has been about survival." Obi listened quietly. "I think what I've missed most isn't money." "What is it?" "Belonging." The word struck him deeply. Belonging. Not wealth. Not status. Not luxury. Just belonging. At that moment, Obi understood something important about her. Despite all her strength, Amara was lonely. Very lonely. And for the first time, he realized he wanted to be someone she could lean on. The realization frightened him slightly, because it meant his feelings were changing. What had begun as curiosity was becoming something much deeper. Unfortunately, they weren't the only ones noticing. Back in the village, rumors had started spreading. People talked whenever Amara walked past. The whispers grew louder each day. Why does Obi keep talking to her? Maybe she's trying to trap him. A rich man would never choose someone like her. One afternoon, Amara overheard several women gossiping. "She's probably pretending to be innocent." "Of course she is. Do you think a billionaire's son would ever marry a farm worker?" The women laughed. Amara quietly walked away. Their words shouldn't have mattered. Yet they hurt, because deep down, she knew there was some truth in them. Obi and she lived in completely different worlds. No matter how much she enjoyed spending time with him, reality remained reality. That evening, she was quieter than usual. Obi noticed immediately. "Something is bothering you." "I'm fine." "No, you're not." Amara sighed. "People are talking." Obi rolled his eyes. "People always talk. They say we're foolish. They're wrong. They say someone like you could never care about someone like me." For the first time, Obi looked serious. He turned toward her. "Do you believe that?" Amara hesitated. "I don't know." Obi stared at her for several seconds. Then he shook his head. "I don't care what anyone says." The sincerity in his voice surprised her. Neither spoke for a moment. The air suddenly felt different, charged, almost electric. Eventually, Amara looked away first. Her heart was beating faster than it should. Obi felt it too. The friendship between them was changing. Neither could deny it anymore. Yet neither was ready to speak the truth aloud. Instead, they continued meeting day after day, talking, laughing, sharing pieces of themselves, slowly building a connection neither had expected. One Saturday evening, a heavy rainstorm struck the area. Most workers hurried home before the worst of it arrived. Amara wasn't so lucky. She was halfway down the road when the rain began pouring. Within minutes she was soaked. Suddenly, a vehicle pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. Obi sat inside. "Get in." Amara shook her head. "I'll walk." "You'll drown." She laughed. "I've survived worse." "Amara." His tone became firm. "Get in." Reluctantly, she climbed into the vehicle. For the next 20 minutes, they drove through the rain together. The storm battered the windows while thunder echoed across the sky. Yet inside the vehicle, everything felt peaceful, comfortable, safe. When they finally reached her house, Obi parked outside. Neither moved immediately. The rain continued falling heavily around them. "This is me," Amara said softly. "I know." Neither reached for the door. Neither seemed eager for the moment to end. Finally, Amara smiled. "Thank you." "You're welcome." She opened the door and stepped into the rain. Before closing it, she looked back at him. For a brief moment their eyes met. Something passed between them, something neither could fully explain. Then she disappeared into her small house. Obi remained parked outside for several seconds. A smile slowly spread across his face. Meanwhile, inside her home, Amara leaned against the door. Her heart was racing. She didn't know what was happening. She only knew one thing. Every day she spent with Obi made her happier than the day before. And though neither of them realized it yet, friendship was slowly giving way to something far more powerful. Something that would soon change both of their lives forever. Months passed, and before either of them realized it, Obi and Amara had become inseparable. What had started as simple conversations after work had grown into something neither could ignore. Every morning, Amara found herself looking toward the road whenever she arrived at the farm. And every morning, Obi found reasons to visit the fields, even when there was no business that required his attention. The workers noticed. The supervisors noticed. Even the villagers noticed. But neither Obi nor Amara seemed to care anymore. They simply enjoyed being together. One bright morning, Amara arrived at the farm carrying her hoe over her shoulder as usual. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with shades of orange and gold. As she approached the work area, she spotted Obi standing near one of the storage buildings. The moment he saw her, his face lit up. A smile immediately appeared on hers. For a brief second, neither spoke. Yet the happiness they felt at seeing each other was obvious. One of the workers nearby chuckled. "Look at those two." Another laughed. "They smile more at each other than newlyweds." Amara heard the comment and quickly looked away, embarrassed. Obi simply laughed. But secretly, he didn't mind the comparison. Not at all. The workday passed quickly. Whenever Amara looked up from her work, she would find Obi somewhere nearby. Sometimes he was talking to supervisors. Sometimes he was inspecting equipment, and sometimes he was clearly pretending to be busy while watching her work. Each time their eyes met, they smiled. By lunchtime, Obi found her sitting beneath her favorite tree. He carried 2 containers of food. Amara immediately looked suspicious. "What is this?" "Lunch. I already brought lunch." "I know." She narrowed her eyes. "You bought food for me again?" Obi sat beside her. "It's just lunch." "Obi, it's just lunch." Amara sighed. "You spoil me too much." Obi laughed. "You say that every time." "Because it's true." He handed her the container. Reluctantly, she accepted it. The meal inside was far better than anything she could afford. Rice, chicken, fresh vegetables. For a moment, she simply stared at it. Growing up poor had taught her never to take food for granted. Obi noticed the expression on her face. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "You got quiet." Amara smiled softly. "No one has ever taken care of me before." The words hit Obi harder than she realized. For a moment he couldn't speak. His chest tightened. The idea that someone as kind as Amara had spent most of her life facing hardships alone made him sad. Without thinking, he reached over and gently touched her hand. "It's my pleasure." Amara looked down at their hands, then back at him. Something warm spread through her chest. Neither moved away. For several seconds, the world around them seemed to disappear. Then a loud shout from another worker broke the moment. They quickly pulled apart, both pretending nothing had happened. But something had changed. Something important. That evening, as Amara walked home, she couldn't stop thinking about it. The way he looked at her. The way he cared about her. The way he made her feel. For years, she had believed she would spend her life alone. She wasn't like other women. Men rarely approached her. Most were intimidated by her strength. Others assumed she wasn't interested in relationships. She had accepted that reality long ago. Yet somehow Obi saw past all of that. He saw the person she truly was. And little by little she was falling for him. The realization frightened her. Because loving someone like Obi felt dangerous. He came from a world she could barely imagine. A world of wealth and influence. A world where people wore expensive clothes and attended important events. She came from a small mud house with a leaking roof. What future could possibly exist between people so different? The question haunted her. A few days later, she received a painful reminder of their differences. As she walked through the village, several women stopped talking when she approached. Then one of them smirked. "So, how is your billionaire boyfriend?" The others laughed. Amara kept walking, but the woman wasn't finished. "Be careful." Another woman joined in. "Men like him don't marry women like us." More laughter followed. Amara clenched her fists, not because she wanted to fight, because their words hurt. Deep down, she feared they might be right. That evening, Obi immediately noticed something was wrong. They were sitting beneath a tree overlooking the fields when he asked, "What happened today?" "Nothing." "You always say that when something happened." Amara smiled despite herself. "Am I that easy to read?" "To me?" "Yes." For a moment she hesitated. Then she told him everything. The gossip, the mockery, the cruel comments. Obi listened quietly. When she finished, anger flashed across his face. "I don't care what they think. Maybe you don't. I don't. But they're not completely wrong." Obi frowned. "What do you mean?" Amara stared toward the distant horizon. "Look at us." "What about us?" "You own this farm. My father owns it. You know what I mean." Obi remained silent. Amara sighed. "You have everything. And I have nothing." Obi looked at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "No." Amara blinked. "What?" "You have something most people don't." "What?" "Character." She looked away. Obi continued. "Do you know how many wealthy people I've met? Probably a lot. Most of them are selfish." Amara laughed softly. "That's a terrible advertisement for rich people." Obi grinned. "I'm serious." His expression became more sincere. "Money doesn't impress me anymore." "What does?" Obi looked directly into her eyes. kindness. The way he said it made her heart skip a beat. Neither spoke for several seconds. The air between them suddenly felt different. Heavy, meaningful, dangerously close to something neither was ready to admit. A few weeks later, the annual village festival arrived. It was the biggest celebration of the year. People traveled from neighboring communities to attend. There was music, dancing, food vendors, games. For one evening, everyone forgot their troubles. Amara almost didn't attend. She rarely enjoyed large gatherings. But one of her co-workers convinced her. When she arrived, the festival grounds were already crowded. Colorful lanterns hung from trees. Music filled the air. Children ran between food stalls. Families laughed together. For a brief moment, Amara simply stood there taking it all in. Then she heard a familiar voice. "You came." She turned and saw Obi. For some reason, seeing him made everything feel brighter. "I almost didn't. I'm glad you did." Together, they walked through the festival. They sampled food, watched dancers perform, played simple games. For the first time in years, Amara felt carefree, happy, normal. At one point, they stopped near a small stall selling handmade bracelets. The elderly woman running the stall smiled knowingly when she saw them. "What a beautiful couple." Amara nearly choked. "We're not a couple." The woman laughed. "Not yet." Obi couldn't stop smiling. Amara's face turned bright red. The old woman picked up a bracelet. "This one is perfect." Before Amara could protest, Obi purchased it. Then, to her complete surprise, he gently tied it around her wrist. Their eyes met. The noise of the festival seemed to fade. The music, the laughter, the crowds, everything disappeared. For a brief moment, it felt like they were the only two people in the world. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. Something important had passed between them. A feeling too powerful to ignore. Later that evening, they left the festival and walked toward the farm. The moon hung high above them. Silver light bathed the fields. A gentle breeze moved through the grass. Eventually, they reached the large mango tree where they often sat together. The farm was quiet now. Peaceful. Beautiful. They settled beneath the tree and stared at the stars. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Obi broke the silence. "Amara." His voice sounded different, more serious. She turned toward him. "Yes." Obi took a deep breath. His heart was pounding. He had rehearsed this conversation 100 times. Yet now that the moment had arrived, he suddenly felt nervous. Very nervous. "I need to tell you something." Amara felt her own pulse quicken. "What is it?" Obi looked directly into her eyes. For a moment, he simply stared at her. The woman who worked harder than anyone else. The woman who had endured more hardship than most people could imagine. The woman whose kindness had changed his life. Then he smiled softly. "I think you're the strongest person I've ever met." Amara laughed nervously. "That's because everyone says I work like a man." Obi shook his head. "No." His voice became gentle. "I mean your heart." The smile faded from her lips. Suddenly she couldn't breathe properly. The sincerity in his eyes made her chest tighten. "You've been through things that would break most people." He moved slightly closer. "But somehow you remain kind." Amara felt tears threatening to form. Nobody had ever spoken to her that way before. Nobody had ever looked at her the way Obi was looking at her now. Then he reached for her hand. Slowly, carefully, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Their fingers intertwined. A warmth spread through both of them. "Amara," Obi whispered. She could barely speak. "Yes, I love you." The words seemed to echo through the night. For a moment, the entire world stood still. Amara stared at him. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it. Every fear, every doubt, every insecurity she had carried for years suddenly surfaced. Then she saw the honesty in his eyes. And she knew. He meant every word. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I love you too." The smile that spread across Obi's face was unlike anything she had ever seen. Slowly, he lifted his hand and brushed away her tear. Then he leaned closer. Amara didn't move away. Their eyes remained locked. The distance between them disappeared, and beneath the mango tree, surrounded by moonlight and silence, they shared their first kiss. It was gentle, tender, and filled with everything they had been afraid to say. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. Neither knew what the future would bring. Neither knew about the challenges waiting ahead. The opposition, the tests, the heartbreak. At that moment, none of it mattered, because for the first time in their lives, they had found something truly special. They had found each other, and under the watchful stars, a beautiful love story had finally begun. The morning after their first kiss felt different. For the first time in years, Amara woke up smiling. She lay on her small wooden bed staring at the ceiling of her tiny house, replaying the previous night over and over in her mind. The moonlight, the mango tree, the way Obi had looked at her. Most of all, the way he had said those three simple words. I love you. A warmth spread through her chest just thinking about it. For years, Amara had convinced herself that love wasn't meant for people like her. She was poor. She was an orphan. She spent her days digging fields while other women her age were getting married and building families. Yet somehow, against all odds, someone had chosen her. Not out of pity, not because he felt sorry for her, but because he genuinely loved her. The thought made her happier than she had ever been. After washing and preparing for work, she stepped outside. The morning air felt lighter. The sky seemed brighter. Even the long walk to the farm felt easier. She found herself humming softly as she walked. Several villagers noticed. One elderly woman smiled knowingly. Someone looks happy today. Amara immediately blushed. The woman laughed. I knew it. Amara hurried away before she could say anything else. Unfortunately, not everyone was happy for her. As she continued walking, she passed a group of young women gathered near the village well. The moment they saw her, the whispers began. Look at her smiling. I heard she and Obi are together now. That won't last. His family would never allow it. Amara pretended not to hear, but their words stayed with her. The closer she got to the farm, the more uneasy she felt, because deep down she knew they might be right. Obi loved her. She loved him. But love wasn't always enough. There were families, expectations, social status, money, things far bigger than either of them. Still, she pushed those thoughts aside. Today was supposed to be a happy day. She wasn't going to ruin it with worry. When she arrived at the farm, she immediately spotted Obi. The moment he saw her, his face lit up. Amara felt her heart flutter. He walked toward her quickly. Good morning. Good morning. Neither could stop smiling. For a few seconds, they simply stood there looking at each other. Then Obi lowered his voice. I missed you. Amara laughed softly. You saw me less than 12 hours ago. I know. That's ridiculous. Probably. His grin widened. But I still missed you. She shook her head, trying to hide her smile. Several workers nearby noticed the exchange. Soon whispers spread across the field. By midday, nearly everyone knew about the relationship. Some people were happy for them. Others were skeptical. A few were openly jealous. But neither Obi nor Amara paid attention. For them, nothing else mattered. At least not yet. Around noon, a sudden commotion erupted near the entrance of the farm. Workers stopped what they were doing. Supervisors straightened immediately. Several security guards hurried across the property. Amara frowned. What is happening? One worker nearby looked toward the road. Then his eyes widened. It's him. Who? The owner. The entire field seemed to become tense. A convoy of luxury vehicles rolled slowly through the farm entrance. The cars were sleek and expensive, gleaming beneath the afternoon sun. Workers stepped aside as the convoy approached. The lead vehicle finally stopped. A chauffeur rushed forward and opened the door. Out stepped a tall man dressed in an expensive suit. Even before anyone spoke, his presence commanded attention. Confidence, power, authority. This was a man accustomed to getting whatever he wanted. His name was Chief Okafor, one of the richest businessmen in the country, and Obi's father. Immediately, supervisors rushed forward to greet him. Workers lowered their heads respectfully. Even those who had never met him knew exactly who he was. Amara watched silently. She had heard stories about Chief Okafor, how he owned businesses across the country, how politicians sought his support, how powerful he was. Seeing him in person was intimidating. Very intimidating. Chief Okafor exchanged greetings with several managers before beginning his inspection of the farm. Everything seemed normal at first. Then his eyes landed on Obi, standing beside Amara, smiling at her. The billionaire's expression changed instantly. It happened so quickly most people didn't notice. But Amara did. His face hardened. His eyes narrowed slightly. And for the first time all day, a feeling of dread settled inside her stomach. The inspection continued. Yet several times she noticed Chief Okafor looking in her direction. Not with curiosity, not with kindness, but with suspicion. By late afternoon, the workers returned to their tasks. Amara tried to focus on her work. Unfortunately, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Very wrong. Her fears were confirmed shortly before the workday ended. One of the supervisors approached her. Amara. She looked up. Yes. The boss wants to speak with you. Her heart immediately sank. The boss. The supervisor nodded. Chief Okafor. A knot formed in her stomach. Around her, several workers exchanged nervous glances. Everyone knew this couldn't be good. Amara wiped her hands on her clothing and followed the supervisor. Each step felt heavier than the last. Eventually, they reached a quiet section of the farm near one of the administrative buildings. Chief Okafor stood alone. His hands were clasped behind his back. His expensive suit looked completely out of place among the farmland. The supervisor stopped. He is here, sir. Chief Okafor nodded. You may leave. The supervisor quickly disappeared. Now Amara stood alone with one of the most powerful men in the country. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Chief Okafor slowly turned toward her. His expression was unreadable. You're Amara. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. He studied her carefully, from head to toe. The silence felt uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke again. I hear you've become close to my son. Amara swallowed nervously. We care about each other. Chief Okafor's face remained expressionless. I see. More silence. Then he took a few steps closer. Do you know who my son is? Yes, sir. Do you understand the life he comes from? Amara lowered her gaze. Yes, sir. The billionaire nodded. Then perhaps you also understand why this relationship cannot continue. The words struck her like a slap. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Sir. Chief Okafor's voice became colder. Stay away from Obi. Amara stared at him in shock. The billionaire continued. You are employed here to work. His tone was firm. Nothing more. A painful lump formed in her throat. She wanted to speak. Wanted to defend herself. Wanted to explain how much she loved Obi. But fear kept her silent. Chief Okafor mistook her silence for agreement. Good. Then his eyes hardened further. If you wish to continue working on this farm, you will end whatever relationship you think you have with my son. The statement felt like a knife twisting in her chest. For years she had endured insults, mockery, rejection. But somehow this hurt more than all of it. Because it came from the one obstacle she had secretly feared all along. Reality. Chief Okafor looked at her one final time. Then he spoke words she would never forget. My son deserves someone from his world. Amara felt tears threatening to form. She forced herself to remain calm. Chief Okafor turned and walked away without another word. Just like that, the conversation was over. Amara remained standing there long after he disappeared. The late afternoon breeze moved gently through the fields. Workers laughed in the distance. Birds flew overhead. Life continued as normal. Yet it felt as though her entire world had suddenly stopped. Eventually, she forced herself to return to work. But she could barely concentrate. The billionaire's words echoed endlessly inside her mind. My son deserves someone from his world. The painful truth was that she had asked herself the same question many times. What future could someone like her have with someone like Obi? She had simply hoped love would be enough. Now she wasn't so sure. When the workday finally ended, she considered leaving immediately. But before she could, Obi found her. The smile on his face vanished instantly. Something was wrong. He could see it. What happened? Amara looked away. Nothing. Amara. His voice softened. What happened? She remained silent. Obi gently touched her shoulder. Please tell me. The concern in his voice almost broke her. Slowly, she lifted her eyes to meet his. And for the first time he saw tears there. His heart dropped. Who upset you? Amara took a shaky breath. Your father. The words hit Obi like a thunderbolt. My father. She nodded. Then she told him everything. Every word. Every warning. Every threat. As she spoke, Obi's expression darkened. His jaw tightened. His hands clenched into fists. By the time she finished, anger burned visibly in his eyes. He said that. Amara nodded. Obi. But he wasn't listening anymore. For the first time since she had met him, she saw genuine fury on his face. He had no right. Obi, please. He had no right. Workers nearby turned to stare. Obi took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. It didn't work. His anger only grew stronger. My father doesn't get to decide who I love. Amara's heart ached. He's your father. And you're the woman I love. The sincerity in his voice nearly brought tears to her eyes again. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Obi made a decision. A dangerous decision. One that would change everything. He turned toward the road leading out of the farm. Where are you going? Amara asked. His eyes burned with determination. To talk to my father. A chill ran through her body. Obi. But he was already walking away. Fast. Purposefully. Like a man heading into battle. Amara watched helplessly as he disappeared into the distance. Fear gripped her heart. Because she knew one thing for certain. The confrontation between father and son was coming. And when it happened, nothing would ever be the same again. Obi drove away from the farm with anger burning inside him. The sun was already beginning to set, casting long shadows across the road, but he barely noticed. His mind replayed Amara's words over and over. Your father told me to stay away from you. If you wish to continue working here, end whatever relationship you think you have with my son. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. For years, Obi had respected his father. Chief Okafor had built an empire from nothing. He was admired throughout the country. His business success was legendary. As a child, Obi had looked up to him. As a man, he still respected him. But today, his father had crossed a line. This wasn't business. This wasn't about money. This was about the woman he loved. And Obi wasn't going to remain silent. His vehicle finally entered the massive gates of the Okafor estate. The mansion stood proudly on a vast property surrounded by manicured gardens and fountains. Security guards immediately opened the gates. Normally, the sight of the estate filled Obi with pride. Today it felt like a prison. He parked quickly and stormed toward the front entrance. Several house staff greeted him. He ignored them. Where is my father? He demanded. One servant looked startled. Sir is in his study. Obi didn't wait another second. He marched through the enormous mansion. His footsteps echoed through the marble hallways. Paintings worth millions decorated the walls. Expensive chandeliers hung from the ceilings. Everything reflected wealth and power. Yet at that moment, Obi couldn't have cared less. He reached the study and pushed the door open. Chief Okafor sat behind a large desk reviewing documents. Without looking up, he said calmly, You're home early. Obi slammed the door shut behind him. The sound echoed through the room. Only then did Chief Okafor look up. The billionaire immediately noticed the anger on his son's face. His expression remained calm. I assume this is about Amara. Obi stared at him. So you know exactly why I'm here. Chief Okafor folded his hands. Sit down. No. The answer came instantly. For several seconds, neither spoke. The room felt tense. Heavy. like a storm waiting to erupt. Finally, Obi broke the silence. Why did you do it? Chief Okafor sighed. Because someone had to. You threatened her. I warned her. You threatened her. The billionaire leaned back in his chair. I did what was necessary. Obi couldn't believe what he was hearing. Necessary? His voice rose. You humiliated her. I protected you. The statement only made Obi angrier. Protected me from what? Chief Okafor stood slowly. From making a mistake. The words hung in the air. Obi stared at his father in disbelief. A mistake? Yes. Chief Okafor walked around the desk. You are allowing your emotions to cloud your judgment. Obi laughed bitterly. My emotions? Exactly. The billionaire pointed toward the window. Everything you see exists because I learned to think with my head, not my heart. Obi shook his head. This isn't about business. No, Chief Okafor agreed. It's about your future. My future is my decision. Not when your decisions affect this family. The argument was escalating quickly. Both men knew it. Yet neither was willing to back down. Chief Okafor walked toward a cabinet and poured himself a glass of water. Then he turned to face his son. I have spent 30 years building our family's reputation. Obi remained silent. I didn't do all that so you could throw it away. The statement made Obi's blood boil. Throw it away? Yes. By loving someone? By choosing the wrong person. Obi's jaw tightened. You don't even know her. I know enough. No, you don't. Chief Okafor's expression hardened. I know she's poor. Obi glared at him. I know she comes from nothing. The billionaire continued. I know she has no education, no connections, and no place in the world you belong to. Every word felt like an insult, not just to Amara, but to everyone who struggled in life. Obi took a deep breath. Do you hear yourself? Chief Okafor remained silent. You're judging her because she's poor. I'm judging her because I'm realistic. The room fell quiet. Then Chief Okafor delivered the news he had been holding back. There is something else. Obi immediately sensed danger. What? The billionaire walked back toward his desk. I have already made arrangements for your future. Obi frowned. What arrangements? Chief Okafor met his gaze. The governor's daughter. Silence. For several seconds, Obi genuinely thought he had misheard. The governor's daughter? Yes. Obi stared at him. What are you talking about? Chief Okafor sat down calmly. The governor and I have discussed it for months. Obi felt sick. Months? The billionaire nodded. Our families would be an excellent match. Obi couldn't believe what he was hearing. You arranged a relationship for me? It's common among influential families. I don't care if it's common. His voice echoed through the room. I never agreed to it. Chief Okafor looked annoyed. You don't need to agree. Obi laughed bitterly. For a moment, he didn't know whether to be angry or shocked. You planned my future without asking me? I planned what is best for you. You planned what is best for yourself. That statement finally cracked Chief Okafor's calm exterior. His eyes narrowed. Be careful. No. Obi stepped forward. For once, let's tell the truth. The billionaire remained silent. You want business connections. You want political influence. You want power. Chief Okafor's expression darkened. And you think I should sacrifice my happiness for it. The room became completely silent. Neither man looked away. Finally, Chief Okafor spoke. Tell me something. What? What exactly makes this woman so special? Obi didn't hesitate. Everything. The answer surprised even him. Chief Okafor laughed. That's not an answer. Yes, it is. The billionaire shook his head. No woman is perfect. Obi smiled slightly. I never said she was. Then what is it? For the first time, Obi's anger softened. His thoughts drifted toward Amara. The way she smiled. The way she worked. The way she cared about people. The way she remained kind despite everything life had done to her. She's honest. Chief Okafor rolled his eyes. Many people are honest. Not like her. Obi continued. She's strong. Physically strong, yes. No. Obi shook his head. Mentally strong. The billionaire listened despite himself. She lost her parents when she was 10. His father remained silent. She grew up with nothing. She had every reason to become bitter. But she didn't. Obi's voice grew softer. She's the kindest person I've ever met. For a moment, Chief Okafor said nothing. Then he sighed. You've fallen in love. The statement wasn't mocking. It sounded almost disappointed. Obi met his gaze. Yes. Chief Okafor shook his head slowly. You think love is enough. It should be. It isn't. The billionaire stood again. Love fades. Obi frowned. What? Reality doesn't. The older man walked toward the window. I've seen this story before. He stared outside. Poor girl meets rich man. Rich man falls in love. Everything seems perfect. Then he turned. Until reality arrives. Obi remained silent. Chief Okafor continued. Money changes people. Power changes people. Opportunity changes people. The billionaire's voice became firm. People like Amara see someone like you and imagine a better life. Obi immediately shook his head. You're wrong. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. The argument intensified once again. Obi stepped forward. You don't know her. I know human nature. You think she's using me. Chief Okafor didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence was answer enough. Obi laughed bitterly. There it is. The billionaire crossed his arms. Can you honestly tell me you've never considered that possibility? No. Obi answered immediately. I haven't. Chief Okafor looked surprised. His son continued. Because I trust her. The room fell silent again. For several moments, neither spoke. Finally, Chief Okafor sighed heavily. For the first time, he looked tired. Not angry, not powerful, just tired. You really love her? Obi nodded. Yes. And you truly believe she loves you? With all my heart. The billionaire stared at him. A long silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. Chief Okafor's expression changed. Not completely, but enough for Obi to notice. The anger was gone. The frustration remained. But there was something else now. Thoughtfulness. The billionaire returned to his desk and sat down. His fingers tapped the wooden surface. He seemed to be considering something. Finally, he spoke. Fine. Obi blinked. What? Chief Okafor looked directly at him. I'll give her a chance. For a moment, Obi thought he had misheard. A chance? Yes. Hope immediately appeared inside him. But it disappeared just as quickly when his father continued. Under one condition. Obi frowned. What condition? The billionaire leaned forward. His eyes sharp. Calculating. Careful. I want proof. Proof of what? Proof that she loves you. Obi shook his head. She does. I want proof. His father repeated. The room became quiet again. Obi stared at him. What are you planning? A faint smile appeared on Chief Okafor's face. Not a warm smile, a strategic one. The smile of a businessman preparing an experiment. I have an idea. Obi suddenly had a bad feeling. What kind of idea? The billionaire folded his hands. If Amara truly loves you, then she will pass. And if she doesn't? Chief Okafor's expression became serious. Then you'll finally see the truth. Obi's stomach tightened. He didn't know exactly what his father was planning. But one thing was clear. The battle wasn't over. Not even close. In fact, it was only just beginning. And somewhere far away in her small house, Amara had no idea that her love, her loyalty, and her future with Obi were about to be tested in ways she never imagined. The following morning, Obi barely slept. The conversation with his father replayed endlessly in his mind. Every word, every argument, every accusation against Amara. Most of all, he couldn't stop thinking about the test. Chief Okafor had refused to cancel it. No matter how much Obi protested, his father remained firm. If Amara truly loves you, she has nothing to fear. Obi hated the idea. He felt guilty. Amara had done nothing wrong. She didn't deserve to be treated like a suspect. Yet his father would not budge. In the end, Obi had reluctantly agreed. Not because he doubted Amara, but because he knew she would pass. At least that was what he kept telling himself. Still, a knot of uneasiness remained in his stomach. As dawn broke over the village, Amara was already awake. She stepped outside her small house and stretched. The previous week had been difficult. Chief Okafor's warning still lingered in her mind. Yet Obi had stood by her. His loyalty had reassured her. For the first time since the confrontation, she felt hopeful again. As she began her walk toward the farm, she smiled. She had no idea that plans were already being made behind her back. Far away, inside the Okafor mansion, Chief Okafor sat at the head of a large dining table. Across from him sat a young man in his late 20s. The man was handsome, exceptionally handsome. He had smooth dark skin, sharp features, and an easy smile that made people trust him immediately. His clothes were expensive but tasteful. His posture was confident. His name was Chinidu. He was Chief Okafor's nephew and Obi's cousin. Unlike many wealthy young men, Chinidu was intelligent, respectful, and charming. People naturally liked him, which was exactly why Chief Okafor had chosen him. Chinidu listened quietly as his uncle explained the situation. When the explanation ended, he stared at the older man in disbelief. "You want me to do what?" Chief Okafor folded his hands. "I want you to pursue her." Chinidu blinked. "Pursue her?" "Yes." The young man shook his head. "Uncle, that sounds ridiculous." Chief Okafor sighed. "I need to know the truth." "The truth about what?" "Whether she loves Obi or his money." Chinidu leaned back in his chair. "You're serious?" "Very." For several seconds, silence filled the room. Then Chinidu laughed. "I've never heard of a relationship examination before." Chief Okafor remained completely serious. "This is important." The smile disappeared from Chinidu's face. "You really think she's after his money?" "I've seen many people pretend to be in love." The billionaire's expression hardened. People become different when wealth enters the picture. Chinidu rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "What if you're wrong?" Chief Okafor didn't answer. The silence itself was an answer. Eventually, Chinidu sighed. "You know Obi is going to hate this." "He already does." "And the girl?" Chief Okafor looked away. "She never has to know." Those words would later prove to be a mistake. A very big mistake. By mid-morning, Chinidu arrived at the farm. The moment he stepped out of his vehicle, several female workers noticed him. Whispers immediately spread across the property. "Who is that?" "He's handsome. Very handsome. I've never seen him before." Some workers stopped what they were doing just to watch him walk past. Even supervisors seemed impressed. Chinidu smiled politely at everyone. He had always been comfortable around people. Unfortunately, he wasn't comfortable with his mission. As he walked across the property, he spotted Obi waiting for him. Obi looked unhappy. Very unhappy. "I still think this is a terrible idea," Obi said immediately. Chinidu laughed. "I agree." "Then don't do it." "I can't exactly refuse your father." Obi groaned. "Neither can I." For a moment, both men stood silently. Then Chinidu's expression softened. "Listen." Obi looked at him. "I'll be honest." "About what?" "If Amara is really the person you describe, this won't take long." Obi crossed his arms. "What does that mean?" "It means your father is probably wrong." The statement offered some comfort, but not enough, because Obi still hated deceiving the woman he loved. A few minutes later, Chinidu finally saw Amara. She was working in one of the fields. As usual, she was outperforming nearly everyone around her. Several male workers were struggling to move large sacks. Amara lifted one by herself. Chinidu's eyebrows rose. "Wow!" Obi smiled slightly. "I told you. She's stronger than half the men here. Most of them." The two cousins watched as Amara helped another worker without being asked. Then she returned to her own tasks, never seeking attention, never showing off, just working. Chinedu found himself unexpectedly impressed. She seems nice. Obi looked at him sharply. Remember why you're here? Chinedu laughed. Relax. Despite his words, something about Amara immediately challenged the assumptions Chief Okafor had made. She didn't behave like someone chasing wealth. In fact, she barely seemed interested in anything except doing her job well. Still, a promise was a promise. The test had to begin. That afternoon, Chinedu approached her for the first time. Amara was taking a short break beneath a tree when she noticed a shadow nearby. Looking up, she saw a handsome stranger smiling at her. Hello. Amara smiled politely. Hello. My name is Chinedu. Nice to meet you. He extended his hand. After a brief hesitation, she shook it. I've seen you around today. Amara nodded. I think everyone has. Chinedu laughed. I suppose that's true. For several minutes they spoke casually. Nothing unusual. Nothing suspicious. Just simple conversation. Amara found him pleasant enough. Friendly. Respectful. Easy to talk to. Eventually he excused himself and left. The encounter seemed harmless, which was exactly what Chief Okafor intended. The next day Chinedu returned, and the day after that. Each visit brought another conversation, another opportunity to observe her, another chance to test her character. What surprised him was how little interest she showed in his wealth. Most people asked questions. What business are you in? Where do you live? What car do you drive? Amara never asked. Not once. Instead, she asked things like, what books do you enjoy reading? What was your childhood like? What places have you visited? Questions about him, not his money. The difference was impossible to ignore. One afternoon, Chinedu decided to take the first real step in the test. As the workday ended, he approached Amara carrying a small package. I got something for you. Amara looked confused. For me? Yes. He handed her the package. She opened it carefully. Inside was a beautiful bracelet. Elegant. Expensive. Far more expensive than anything she owned. Her eyes widened. Then she immediately handed it back. Chinedu blinked. You don't like it? It's beautiful. Then keep it. Amara shook her head. I can't. Why not? It isn't appropriate. Chinedu smiled. It's just a gift. No. She gently pushed it back toward him. It's too much. For several seconds, Chinedu simply stared at her. Most people would have accepted immediately. Many would have demanded more. Amara refused without hesitation. The response genuinely surprised him. Later that evening, he reported everything to Chief Okafor. The billionaire listened quietly. When Chinedu finished, he shrugged. One gift proves nothing. Chinedu frowned. It proves something. No. Chief Okafor shook his head. It only proves she's patient. The response frustrated Chinedu. For the first time, he began wondering if his uncle truly wanted the truth, or if he simply wanted confirmation of his own beliefs. The following week, the test continued. Each day brought another opportunity, another gift, another temptation, and each time Amara refused. One afternoon, Chinedu offered to drive her home. No thank you. Another day, he invited her to lunch. No thank you. A few days later, he brought her an expensive scarf. Again, she refused. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Amara remained completely unaware of what was happening. She assumed Chinedu was simply being friendly, perhaps a little too friendly, but she never considered anything beyond that. Her heart already belonged to someone else. One evening, after work, she sat beneath the mango tree with Obi. The sun was setting. Golden light spread across the fields. For a while, they simply enjoyed each other's company. Then Obi asked carefully, How has your week been? Amara smiled. Strange. His stomach tightened. Strange how? She laughed. Your cousin. Obi nearly choked. What about him? I think he likes me. For a brief second, panic flashed across Obi's face. Amara noticed immediately. Why are you making that face? He quickly recovered. No reason. Amara laughed again. Don't worry. Obi remained silent. She gently touched his hand. My heart belongs to you. The simple statement filled him with relief. At the same time, it made him feel guilty. Very guilty, because she trusted him completely, and he was hiding the truth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Amara rested her head against his shoulder. For a moment, neither spoke. The peaceful silence should have comforted Obi. Instead, it only made him more uncomfortable, because he knew the test wasn't over. In fact, it was only beginning. And somewhere else, Chief Okafor was already planning the next phase. A phase that would bring bigger gifts, greater temptations, and far more difficult challenges. The billionaire remained convinced that everyone had a price. Soon, he intended to find Amara's. What he didn't realize was that some things could never be bought. And before this test was over, he was going to learn that lesson the hard way. The test continued. Days turned into weeks, and Chief Okafor remained determined to uncover what he believed was the truth about Amara. In his mind, no one could resist wealth forever. Everyone had a weakness. Everyone had a price. The billionaire simply believed he hadn't found Amara's yet. Unfortunately for him, he was about to learn that he had misunderstood her completely. The following Monday morning, Amara arrived at the farm before sunrise. The air was cool and fresh. Workers slowly gathered around the equipment sheds while supervisors assigned tasks for the day. As usual, Amara joined the laborers preparing to clear another section of land. Several men greeted her warmly. Over the past few months, she had earned the respect of nearly everyone on the farm. Not because she was dating Obi, but because she worked harder than anyone else. Many workers admired her. Some even sought her advice. She had become an example of perseverance. As she lifted her hoe onto her shoulder, a familiar voice called out, "Good morning, Amara." She turned and saw Chinedu approaching. He wore a neatly pressed shirt and carried the easy smile that seemed permanently attached to his face. "Good morning," she replied politely. "Ready for another day of breaking records?" Amara laughed. "I'm just here to work." That's exactly what someone who breaks records would say. She shook her head and continued toward the fields. Chinedu followed. Over the past few weeks, they had developed a friendly relationship. At least from Amara's perspective. She considered him a pleasant acquaintance. Nothing more. Unfortunately, Chinedu's growing interest was becoming increasingly obvious. Even workers had started noticing. One woman whispered to her friend as they watched him walk beside Amara. "He's always around her." The friend nodded. "And he's handsome too." Another worker joined the conversation. "Poor Obi." The women laughed quietly. Amara ignored them. She had grown used to gossip. The village survived on rumors. By lunchtime, the sun blazed overhead. Workers rested beneath large trees scattered throughout the property. Amara sat alone with her food container. A few minutes later, Chinedu appeared carrying a large paper bag. She immediately recognized the expression on his face. It was the same expression he wore whenever he was planning something. "What is it this time?" she asked. Chinedu laughed. "Why do you assume I'm carrying something?" "Because you always are." He sat beside her. "Fair point." Then he handed her the bag. Amara sighed. "Chinedu, just open it." Reluctantly, she looked inside. Her eyes widened. Several brand-new dresses lay neatly folded inside. Beautiful dresses. Far more expensive than anything she had ever owned. The fabric alone looked luxurious. For a brief moment, she simply stared. Then she carefully closed the bag and handed it back. "No." Chinedu blinked. "No, I can't accept these." "Why not?" Amara looked genuinely confused. "Because they're not mine." "They could be." She shook her head. "That's not how life works." Chinedu smiled. "Life can work however we want." "No." She pushed the bag toward him. "Life works however God wants." For a moment, Chinedu didn't know what to say. Most people would have accepted immediately. Many would have thanked him enthusiastically. Some would have asked for more. Amara simply refused. Again. That evening, Chinedu met Chief Okafor at the mansion. The billionaire listened patiently as another report was delivered. When the story ended, Chief Okafor frowned. She rejected them? Immediately. The billionaire leaned back. Interesting. Chinedu crossed his arms. At some point, you need to admit you might be wrong. Chief Okafor ignored the comment. Instead, he stared thoughtfully out the window. Try something bigger. Chinedu frowned. Bigger. Much bigger. The young man already knew where this was heading, and he wasn't sure he liked it. The next week brought another surprise. One afternoon, after work ended, Chinedu approached Amara near the entrance of the farm. A luxury vehicle waited nearby. It was sleek, expensive, the type of car most villagers would only see in magazines. Amara immediately became suspicious. No, Chinedu laughed. I haven't even asked anything yet. I know. Then why are you saying no? Because whenever you smile like that, trouble follows. He burst out laughing. Fair enough. Then he gestured toward the vehicle. Come for a drive. Amara stared at him. Why? Because you've probably never ridden in one. She shrugged. Probably. Then come. No. The answer was instant. Chinedu blinked. You didn't even think about it. I don't need to. It would be fun. Amara smiled politely. I'm walking home. That's an hour away. I know. It's hot. I know. The road is dusty. I know. Chinedu sighed dramatically. You're impossible. Amara laughed. You aren't the first person to say that. As she walked away, Chinedu found himself smiling despite his frustration. The strange thing was that he was beginning to admire her. A lot. Every day she became harder to test, because every day she proved herself more genuine. Meanwhile, Obi struggled with growing guilt. Each time he saw Amara, the secret weighed heavier on his conscience. One evening they sat beneath their favorite mango tree. The sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Amara rested comfortably beside him. For a while neither spoke. Then she smiled. Your cousin is very persistent. Obi nearly groaned. Still, very. What did he do now? Amara laughed. He tried to get me into one of those expensive cars. Obi shook his head. And I said no. A smile appeared on his face. Of course you did. Amara looked at him. You don't seem surprised. I'm not. Why? Obi gently squeezed her hand. Because I know you. The simple statement warmed her heart. She leaned her head against his shoulder. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Yet Obi's guilt continued growing. Because he knew exactly why Chinedu was behaving this way. And Amara trusted him completely. Far away, Chief Okafor was becoming frustrated. Weeks had passed. Nothing had worked. No gifts. No special treatment. No expensive gestures. Every attempt had failed. For the first time, doubt began creeping into his mind. Perhaps Obi was right. Perhaps Amara truly was different. Unfortunately, pride made it difficult for him to admit it. Instead, he doubled down. One evening, he called Chinedu to his office. The young man entered looking exhausted. I'm guessing this isn't a social visit. Chief Okafor smiled slightly. No. I figured. The billionaire folded his hands. It's time to increase the pressure. Chinedu frowned. Pressure? Offer her something life-changing. The young man immediately disliked the idea. What exactly are we talking about? Chief Okafor looked directly at him. A house. Silence. Chinedu stared. A house? Yes. The billionaire remained serious. Tell her you'll buy her a house. For several seconds, Chinedu genuinely thought his uncle was joking. Then he realized he wasn't. You've lost your mind. Chief Okafor frowned. Watch your tone. No. Chinedu shook his head. This is ridiculous. The billionaire's expression hardened. Do it. Reluctantly, Chinedu agreed, though deep down he already knew what the outcome would be. The following afternoon, he found Amara repairing one of the farm fences. She was hammering wooden posts into the ground, a task that normally required two people. Yet she handled it alone. As usual. Can we talk? Chinedu asked. Amara nodded. Of course. He took a deep breath. This conversation was going to feel absurd. Suppose someone offered you a house. Amara stared. A house? Yes. Why? Just suppose. She shrugged. I would ask why. What if they simply wanted to help? Amara leaned against the fence. Nobody simply gives away houses. What if they did? She laughed. Then I would assume they wanted something. The answer caught him off guard. What if they genuinely cared about you? Amara's smile faded slightly. Then she spoke quietly. The people who genuinely care about me don't need to buy my affection. For a moment, neither spoke. The statement hit harder than she realized. Because Chinedu knew she was talking about Obi, even if she never said his name. A few seconds later, she returned to work. The conversation was over. Just like that. That night, Chinedu sat across from Chief Okafor once again. The billionaire looked impatient. Well, Chinedu sighed. She refused. Chief Okafor closed his eyes. Again. Again. Silence filled the room. Then something unexpected happened. Chinedu leaned forward. Uncle. Chief Okafor looked up. Yes. I think you owe this woman an apology. The billionaire frowned. What? You heard me. Chinedu's voice was firm. She's passed every test. Chief Okafor remained silent. At this point, you're not testing her. The younger man continued. You're testing your own ability to admit you're wrong. The words struck a nerve. The billionaire's face hardened. But he didn't argue, because deep down he knew there was truth in them. For the first time, Chief Okafor found himself questioning his assumptions. Could he really have misjudged Amara? Could she truly love Obi without caring about money? The possibility unsettled him. Not because he disliked her, but because it meant confronting his own prejudice. Meanwhile, miles away in her tiny house, Amara sat by her window staring at the stars. A small smile rested on her face. She was thinking about Obi, about their future, about the life they might build together. She had no interest in luxury cars, or expensive gifts, or grand promises. All she wanted was the man she loved. And as the stars glittered above her, she remained completely unaware that her loyalty was slowly breaking down every wall Chief Okafor had built around his heart. The billionaire just didn't know it yet. But his test was beginning to fail, and Amara was beginning to win. Chief Okafor sat alone in his study late one evening. The room was silent except for the ticking of an expensive wall clock. Stacks of business reports sat untouched on his desk. For once, the billionaire wasn't thinking about contracts, investments, or company profits. His thoughts were fixed on one person, Amara. For weeks, he had watched every attempt to expose her fail. She had rejected gifts, rejected expensive clothing, rejected special treatment, rejected every opportunity that seemed designed to tempt her. It didn't make sense. In Chief Okafor's experience, everyone wanted something. Power, money, status, influence. People always wanted more. Yet Amara seemed completely uninterested. The more she refused, the more confused he became. Still, he wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. There had to be a limit. A point where reality would outweigh emotion. A point where she would choose comfort over love. At least that was what he believed. The following morning, he summoned Chinedu once again. When Chinedu entered the office, he already looked exhausted. You called? Chief Okafor nodded. Sit. The younger man dropped into a chair. I have a feeling I'm not going to like this conversation. The billionaire ignored the comment. Instead, he folded his hands and spoke calmly. It's time to try something different. Chinedu sighed. Uncle, listen first. The young man reluctantly nodded. Chief Okafor leaned forward. No more gifts. Chinedu raised an eyebrow. Good. No more jewelry. Even better. No more clothes. I'm loving this plan already. Chief Okafor continued. You will offer her a future. The smile disappeared from Chinedu's face. A future? Yes. The billionaire's eyes narrowed slightly. Promise her the life most people dream about. Chinedu immediately understood, and immediately hated it. You want me to tell her I can make her rich. I want you to tell her the truth. What truth? Chief Okafor spread his hands. You are wealthy. Yes. You own businesses. Yes. You can provide a life most people can only imagine. Chinedu stared at him. And if she values those things more than Obi, we'll finally know. The room became quiet. For several seconds, Chinedu simply looked at his uncle. Then he shook his head. I think you're making a mistake. Chief Okafor frowned. What do you mean? You're treating love like a business transaction. The billionaire didn't respond. Chinedu continued. Not everything can be measured. Everything can be tested. The younger man sighed. There was no point arguing. Chief Okafor had already made up his mind. Once the billionaire became determined, changing his opinion was nearly impossible. Fine, Chinedu said. I'll do it. But as he left the office, he couldn't shake the feeling that the entire test had become unfair. Not because of Amara, because of Chief Okafor. The billionaire wasn't looking for truth anymore. He was looking for proof that he was right. Unfortunately for him, reality was about to disappoint him again. The next day at the farm, Amara was busy unloading bags of fertilizer from a truck. Most workers needed 2 people for the task. Amara managed each bag by herself. Nearby laborers watched in amusement. One man laughed. I still don't understand how you're stronger than all of us. Amara grinned. I eat my vegetables. The workers burst out laughing. As she lifted another bag, she noticed Chinedu approaching. Over the past few weeks, she had grown comfortable around him. He was friendly, respectful, easy to talk to. Still, she couldn't help noticing that his attention toward her seemed unusually persistent. Good morning, he said. Good morning. You look busy. I am busy. That's never stopped you from talking before. Amara laughed. Fair enough. For the next few minutes, they chatted while she worked. Eventually, Chinedu glanced around to ensure no one was listening. Can I ask you something? Of course. If you had the chance to change your life completely, would you take it? Amara paused. The question seemed strange. What do you mean? Anything. He gestured broadly. A different house. A different lifestyle. More money. Better opportunities. Amara wiped sweat from her forehead. Then she shrugged. I don't know. The answer surprised him. You don't know? No. Chinedu frowned. Most people would answer immediately. Most people aren't me. He smiled. That was true. Very true. Later that afternoon, he decided to push further. The workers had finished for the day. The sun was slowly sinking toward the horizon. Amara sat beneath her favorite tree drinking water when Chinedu approached. This time, his expression was serious. Can we talk? She nodded. Sure. He sat beside her. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then he finally said, You deserve better. Amara blinked. Better than what? Better than struggling. She looked confused. What brought this on? Chinedu stared across the fields. I've been watching you. Amara laughed. That sounds concerning. He smiled. You work harder than anyone here. I try. You shouldn't have to. She frowned. I don't understand. Chinedu took a deep breath. Then he decided to follow through with the plan. You deserve comfort. Amara remained silent. You deserve security. Still silent. You deserve a life where you never have to worry about money again. Now she understood where the conversation was going, and she immediately disliked it. Chinedu. But he continued. I could give you that. The words hung in the air. For several seconds, neither spoke. Amara stared at him. Then she sighed. Oh. Chinedu nodded. I mean it. The silence stretched. Finally, Amara asked quietly, Why? The question caught him off guard. Why what? Why would you want to do that? Chinedu hesitated. The answer should have been easy, but somehow it wasn't, because over the past few weeks, he had come to genuinely respect her. I think you're special. Amara looked away. You're kind. He continued. Strong. Honest. You deserve happiness. Amara smiled sadly. That's very nice of you. But his heart already knew what was coming. But my happiness isn't for sale. The statement hit harder than he expected. For a moment he couldn't respond. Amara continued softly. I appreciate your kindness. I really do. But you're offering me the wrong things. Chinedu frowned. The wrong things? She nodded. You keep talking about money. He remained silent. You keep talking about comfort. Still silent. You keep talking about luxury. Amara smiled gently. But none of those things are what I want most. For the first time, Chinedu felt genuinely curious. Then what do you want most? The answer came immediately. Love. No hesitation. No uncertainty. Just certainty. Absolute certainty. The simplicity of her answer stunned him. Most people complicated life. Amara didn't. She knew exactly what mattered to her. And it wasn't wealth. Over the next few days, Chinedu continued his efforts. But his heart wasn't in it anymore. The more he learned about Amara, the more convinced he became that Chief Okafor had been wrong from the beginning. One afternoon, he made another attempt. This time, they were walking along the edge of the property after work. The fields glowed beneath the evening sun. Workers slowly headed home. The atmosphere felt peaceful. Imagine this, Chinedu said. Amara smiled. Oh, what? Whenever you say that, trouble follows. He laughed. Just listen. She nodded. Fine. Chinedu pointed toward the horizon. Imagine waking up every morning in a mansion. Amara chuckled. Okay. Imagine never worrying about bills. Sounds nice. Imagine traveling the world. She nodded. Very nice. Imagine having servants. Amara laughed. I don't think I'd know what to do with servants. Chinedu smiled. Imagine having everything. Then he turned toward her. Wouldn't you want that life? Amara thought for a moment. Then she surprised him again. No. He blinked. No. She shook her head. Not without the right person. The answer was immediate, effortless, completely sincere. Chinedu stared at her. Then he laughed softly. What? Amara frowned. You really love him? The smile on her face said everything. She didn't even need to ask who he meant. The look in her eyes was answer enough. For a brief moment, Chinedu felt something unexpected. Jealousy. Not because he wanted Amara for himself, but because he realized how rare that kind of love was. Very few people ever found it. Obi had, and he was lucky enough not to realize it. That evening, Chinedu returned to the mansion. Chief Okafor waited impatiently. The billionaire immediately looked up. Well? Chinedu sat down. For a moment he didn't answer. Then he smiled. What happened? Chief Okafor asked. The younger man shook his head. She turned everything down. Again. The billionaire sighed heavily. Everything. Everything. Chief Okafor rubbed his forehead. This is becoming ridiculous. No. Chinedu looked directly at him. It isn't. The older man remained silent. Chinedu leaned forward. Do you know what she told me today? Chief Okafor frowned. What? She said her happiness isn't for sale. The billionaire looked away. Something about those words bothered him. Not because he didn't believe them, because he was beginning to, and that realization made him uncomfortable. Meanwhile, miles away, Amara sat beneath the stars outside her small home. The evening breeze moved gently through the trees. A smile rested on her face as she thought about Obi. The future remained uncertain. There were still obstacles ahead, still challenges waiting. But one thing had never been clearer. No amount of money could replace the way Obi made her feel. No mansion could replace his kindness. No luxury could replace his love. And although she didn't know it, every choice she made was slowly changing the heart of the man who had once judged her. The test continued. But with every passing day, Amara was proving something important. Some people dream of wealth. Some people dream of power. Some people dream of luxury. But Amara had already found the thing she valued most. And unlike money, true love could never be bought. By the beginning of the next month, Chief Okafor was running out of ideas. For weeks, every test had failed. Every gift had been rejected. Every promise had been ignored. Every temptation had collapsed. Amara remained exactly the same person she had always been. Honest, kind, loyal, and completely devoted to Obi. It should have been enough. It should have convinced him. But years of experience had made Chief Okafor stubborn. He had spent decades in business. He had seen friends betray friends, partners betray partners, even family members betray one another for money. The billionaire had become so accustomed to disappointment that he no longer trusted easily. Deep inside, a small part of him was beginning to believe he had misjudged Amara. Unfortunately, his pride refused to let him admit it. Not yet. One final test remained. And in his mind, this one would reveal everything. That evening, he summoned Chinedu to his office once again. The younger man arrived looking tired. Not physically tired, emotionally tired. The entire situation had become exhausting. The moment he entered, he already knew what was coming. I suppose we're still doing this. Chief Okafor looked up from his desk. One last time. Chinedu sighed heavily. Uncle. One last time. The billionaire's voice was firm. The younger man dropped into a chair. You've been saying that for weeks. This really is the last one. Chinedu leaned back. What now? Chief Okafor folded his hands. I want you to tell her how you feel. The room became silent. Chinedu stared. You want me to what? Confess your feelings. The young man laughed in disbelief. Are you serious? Completely. Chinedu shook his head. This has gone too far. Chief Okafor remained calm. No. Yes. The younger man sat forward. She's in love with Obi. I know. She has never encouraged me. I know. She has rejected everything. I know. Then why are we still doing this? The billionaire looked directly into his eyes. Because if she rejects you when everything is on the table, there will be no doubt. For a long moment, Chinedu remained silent. He hated the plan, absolutely hated it. But part of him understood what Chief Okafor meant. This would end everything one way or another. The test, the suspicions, the doubts, all of it. Finally, he nodded. Fine. Chief Okafor relaxed slightly. But after this, Chinedu added firmly, it's over. The billionaire didn't argue, because deep down he knew the younger man was right. The next day, Amara arrived at work feeling unusually cheerful. The harvest season was approaching. The farm was thriving. Workers were receiving bonuses. And her relationship with Obi felt stronger than ever. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to dream about the future. Perhaps things really would work out. Perhaps Chief Okafor would eventually accept her. Perhaps she and Obi could build a life together. The thought made her smile. As she worked throughout the day, she noticed Chinedu behaving strangely. He seemed distracted, nervous, thoughtful. Several times she caught him staring into space. Eventually, during lunch, she decided to ask, Are you okay? Chinedu looked up. What? You seem worried. He forced a smile. I'm fine. Amara frowned. No, you're not. The young man laughed softly. You sound exactly like Obi. The mention of his cousin brought a smile to her face. Someone has to worry about you. The kindness in her voice only made him feel worse, because he knew what he was planning to do later, and he knew she didn't deserve it. The rest of the day passed slowly. As sunset approached, Chinedu's nervousness grew. He wasn't nervous because he expected success. Quite the opposite. He already knew how the conversation would end. What bothered him was putting Amara in an uncomfortable position. Still, the decision had been made. The final test would happen tonight. When work ended, workers gradually left the farm. The fields became quiet. The orange glow of sunset stretched across the horizon. As Amara gathered her belongings, Chinedu approached. Can we talk? She smiled. Of course. Somewhere private. That caught her attention. For the first time, she sensed something serious. Still, she nodded. A few minutes later, they sat beneath a large tree overlooking the fields. The same fields where Amara had worked for months. The same fields where her life had changed forever. For several moments, neither spoke. The silence felt unusual. Eventually, Amara broke it. "You've been acting strange all day." Chinedu laughed nervously. "Have I?" "Yes." The young man rubbed the back of his neck. For perhaps the first time in his life, he struggled to find words. Finally, he took a deep breath. "Amara." She looked at him. "I need to be honest with you." Immediately, her expression became serious. Something about his tone made her uneasy. "What is it?" Chinedu stared toward the horizon. The setting sun painted everything gold. It was beautiful, yet he barely noticed. His thoughts were elsewhere. "Over the past few weeks, I've gotten to know you." Amara remained silent. "And the more I've gotten to know you, the more I've admired you." A knot formed in her stomach. She already knew where this was heading. Unfortunately, she was right. Chinedu turned toward her. "You're different from anyone I've ever met." Amara lowered her gaze. The situation was becoming uncomfortable. "You are strong." His voice remained calm, kind, honest. "You work harder than anyone I know." The knot in her stomach tightened further. "Chinedu." But he continued. "I care about you." The words hung heavily between them. For several seconds, neither spoke. The evening breeze moved gently through the fields. Birds called in the distance. Everything else seemed to fade away. Finally, Amara sighed softly. "Chinedu." He already knew what she was going to say. Yet he listened anyway. "You are a good man." A sad smile appeared on his face. There it was, the beginning of every rejection. "But," he finished the sentence for her. Amara nodded slowly. "But." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Chinedu surprised her. "What if I told you I could give you everything?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" The young man gestured broadly. "A beautiful home." Silence. "Financial security." More silence. "A comfortable life." Still silence. "You would never have to struggle again." Amara stared at him. The promises sounded incredible. For someone else. Not for her. Because as he spoke, she realized something important. None of those things mattered. Not without Obi. Finally, she asked quietly, "Why are you doing this?" The question caught him off guard. "What? Why are you offering me all these things?" Chinedu hesitated. Then he answered honestly, "Because I think you're worth them." Amara smiled sadly. "And that's very kind." The young man looked away. He already knew what was coming. Then Amara spoke words he would never forget. "But my heart already belongs to someone." The statement was gentle, yet absolutely firm. No hesitation, no uncertainty, just truth. Chinedu nodded. "I know." The answer surprised her. "You do." He laughed softly. "Anyone with eyes can see it." For a moment both smiled. Then he asked one final question. Not because Chief Okafor had instructed him. Because he genuinely wanted to understand. "What makes him so special?" The question lingered in the air. Amara thought carefully before answering. A smile slowly spread across her face. The kind of smile that appeared whenever she thought about Obi. "He sees me." Chinedu frowned. "What do you mean?" Amara looked toward the fields. "Most people see my muscles." She laughed softly. "Or my poverty. Or my circumstances." Her voice became quieter. "But Obi sees me." The simplicity of the answer struck him deeply. "He doesn't care where I came from," she continued. "He doesn't care what people say. He doesn't care what I own." The smile on her face widened. "He just loves me." For a long moment, silence filled the space between them. Then Chinedu asked one final question. "If someone offered you everything in the world," Amara looked at him, "would you leave Obi?" The answer came instantly, without even a second of thought. "No." The certainty in her voice was absolute. Not a trace of doubt. Not the smallest hesitation. Just certainty. Then she added softly, "Because everything in the world means nothing if I lose the person I love." Those words ended the test. Completely. Finally. Permanently. At that moment, Chinedu knew beyond any doubt that Chief Okafor had been wrong. Terribly wrong. Amara wasn't interested in money. She wasn't interested in status. She wasn't interested in luxury. She loved Obi. Purely, completely, and unconditionally. The next evening, Chinedu sat across from Chief Okafor one final time. The billionaire immediately looked up. Well, the younger man smiled. A genuine smile. Then he leaned forward. It's over. Chief Okafor frowned. What happened? Chinedu looked directly into his uncle's eyes. She chose Obi. The billionaire remained silent. Chinedu continued. Not his money. Not his future. Not his status. Just Obi. The room fell completely silent. For the first time since the test began, Chief Okafor had no argument. No counterpoint. No suspicion. Nothing. Because every question had finally been answered. And for the first time, the billionaire was forced to confront a truth he had spent months avoiding. Amara had passed every test. Every single one. The only thing left now was deciding what to do with that truth. Meanwhile, in her small home, Amara prepared for bed completely unaware that the final challenge had ended. She believed she had simply rejected another offer. Another temptation. Another distraction. What she didn't know was that her answer had changed everything. The test was over. The verdict had been delivered. And soon, secrets that had been hidden for months would finally come into the light. The morning after the final test felt different. Although Amara had no idea why, there was a strange sense of peace in the air. The sky was clear. The weather was pleasant. Even the walk to the farm seemed easier than usual. As she made her way along the dusty road, she smiled to herself. Her thoughts, as always, drifted toward Obi. Over the past several months, he had become the most important person in her life. He had stood beside her when others mocked her. He had treated her with kindness when others judged her. Most importantly, he had loved her for who she was. Not for what she owned. Not for what she looked like. But for who she truly was. The thought filled her with warmth. What she didn't know was that Obi had barely slept the previous night. The weight of his secret had become unbearable. For weeks, he had watched Amara unknowingly endure his father's test. Every gift she rejected increased his guilt. Every temptation she refused made him feel worse. Every declaration of love reminded him that she trusted him completely, and he had kept a huge secret from her. Now the test was over. His father finally believed her. The deception had ended. There was only one thing left to do. Tell her the truth. Even though he feared what might happen afterward. By midday, Obi arrived at the farm. The moment he saw Amara, his heart tightened. She waved at him, smiling, happy, trusting. The sight made him feel even worse. He forced a smile and waved back. Throughout the day, he struggled to focus. Several workers noticed his unusual behavior. Even Amara noticed. When lunch arrived, she sat beside him beneath their favorite tree. Immediately, she frowned. Something is wrong. Obi looked up. What makes you say that? You've barely spoken all day. He tried to laugh. I'm just tired. Amara crossed her arms. You're a terrible liar. Normally, the comment would have made him smile. Today, it only increased his anxiety. Amara studied his face carefully. For a moment, she looked genuinely concerned. Did something happen? Obi hesitated. Part of him wanted to tell her everything right there. Immediately, another part wanted to delay the conversation forever. Because once the truth came out, there would be no taking it back. Finally, he shook his head. We'll talk after work. The answer only made Amara more curious. But she didn't press further. If Obi wanted to talk later, she would wait. Unfortunately, the rest of the day passed painfully slowly. For Obi, every hour felt like an eternity. By the time the workers finally finished, his nerves were completely exhausted. The sun was beginning to set. Golden light stretched across the fields. One by one, workers headed home. Soon, only Obi and Amara remained. As usual, they walked toward the large mango tree where they had shared countless conversations. The same tree where they had first confessed their feelings. the same tree where they had shared their first kiss. Normally, being there brought Obi peace. Today it made him nervous. Very nervous. Amara sat down beneath the tree and looked at him expectantly. "Okay." Obi swallowed. "You wanted to talk." For several seconds, he remained silent, trying to find the right words. Unfortunately, there were no right words, only difficult ones. Finally, he took a deep breath. "Amara." She immediately sensed the seriousness in his voice. "What is it?" Obi stared at the ground. Then he forced himself to look at her. "What I'm about to tell you." His voice trailed off. Amara's concern deepened. "What happened?" Another deep breath. Then the truth finally began. "My father gave me a condition." Amara frowned. "A condition?" Obi nodded. "When I told him I loved you." Her confusion grew. "What kind of condition?" The knot in Obi's stomach tightened. Then he said the words. "He wanted to test you." Silence. The evening breeze moved gently through the fields. For a moment, Amara simply stared at him, not understanding. "Test me?" Obi nodded slowly. "Yes." A strange feeling began forming inside her chest. "What do you mean?" His heart pounded. Then he explained. Everything. From the very beginning. His father's doubts. The accusations. The plan. Chinidu's involvement. The gifts. The promises. The attention. The temptation. Every single detail. As the story unfolded, the color slowly drained from Amara's face. First, she looked confused. Then shocked. Then hurt. Deeply hurt. By the time Obi finished speaking, tears had already formed in her eyes. The silence that followed felt unbearable. Obi's chest tightened. "Amara." She stood abruptly. The movement startled him. "You tested me?" Her voice trembled. The pain inside it cut straight through him. "Please let me explain." "You tested me?" She repeated the question. This time louder. Obi stood as well. "My father." "No." Amara shook her head. Her eyes filled with tears. "Don't blame your father." The statement stunned him. "What?" She looked directly into his eyes. "He couldn't have done any of it without your permission." Obi froze, because she was right, painfully right. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Amara laughed bitterly. The sound broke his heart. "I can't believe this. Amara, I trusted you." The words hit harder than anything else. Not anger, not accusations. Trust, because that was exactly what had been damaged. For months, she had trusted him completely, and now she felt betrayed. Obi stepped closer. "I never doubted you." "Really?" The hurt in her eyes was unmistakable. "If you never doubted me, then why agree to the test?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again, because he didn't have a good answer. Not one she would accept. Not one he accepted himself. Amara wiped a tear from her cheek. Suddenly, memories began flooding her mind. The gifts, the conversations, the promises, every interaction with Chinidu, everything she had thought was coincidence, everything she had believed was harmless. It had all been planned, every single bit of it. The realization made her feel humiliated, like she had been part of a game without knowing it. A game everyone understood except her. "You let me go through all of that." Her voice was quiet now, which somehow hurt more. Obi shook his head desperately. "I hated it, but you allowed it. I didn't know how to stop it." Amara stared at him. For several seconds, she simply stared. Then she laughed again. A sad laugh. A broken laugh. "You own half this farm." Obi lowered his head. "You could have stopped it." The painful truth hung between them. Because she was right. He could have stopped it. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not easily. But he could have done more. Much more. And they both knew it. Tears continued rolling down Amara's cheeks. Not because she doubted his love. Oddly enough, she didn't. She still believed he loved her. That wasn't the problem. The problem was trust. Trust once broken was difficult to repair. "Do you know what hurts most?" Obi looked at her. "What?" Her voice cracked. "That I would never have done this to you." The statement shattered him. Because it was true. Amara loved too honestly, too sincerely. She would never have treated him that way. For several moments, neither spoke. The sun continued sinking behind the horizon. Shadows stretched across the fields. Everything felt heavier, sadder, more painful. Finally, Obi took a step forward. "I'm sorry." Amara looked away. "I know." "No." His voice trembled. "I mean it." Another step. "I was wrong." Amara remained silent. "I should have told you sooner." Still silence. "I should have trusted you more." Tears filled his own eyes now. "I should have protected you." The sincerity in his voice was obvious. Yet the damage remained. Because apologies couldn't erase betrayal, no matter how genuine they were. Eventually, Amara took a shaky breath. "I need time." Obi's heart sank. "Time?" She nodded. "I can't do this right now." Panic immediately appeared in his eyes. "Amara, please." But she shook her head. "No." The word wasn't angry. It was exhausted. Emotionally exhausted. She had spent months unknowingly proving herself. Months being judged. Months being tested. Months living inside a lie, without realizing it. And now she needed space. Obi knew it, even if he hated it. Another tear rolled down her cheek. Then she turned away. For a brief moment he considered following her, stopping her, saying something else. Anything. Instead, he remained where he was, watching helplessly, because some wounds couldn't be healed immediately. Some wounds needed time. Amara walked away slowly, her heart aching, her mind overwhelmed. Behind her, Obi remained beneath the mango tree, alone, as darkness slowly settled over the farm. For the first time since they had fallen in love, he felt truly afraid. Not afraid of his father. Not afraid of losing his inheritance. Not afraid of public opinion. He was afraid of losing Amara. Because now he understood something important. The test had ended. But the hardest challenge was only beginning. Winning her father's approval had been easy. Winning back her trust might be far more difficult. And as the stars appeared overhead, neither of them knew whether their love would survive the truth. The days following the revelation were some of the most painful days Amara had experienced in a long time. Not because she had stopped loving Obi. That was the problem. She still loved him. She still thought about him when she woke up in the morning. She still looked toward the farm entrance hoping to see him arrive. She still missed their conversations beneath the mango tree. And that made everything hurt even more. If she had stopped loving him, walking away would have been easier. But love remained. Trust, however, had been damaged. And trust was not something that could be repaired overnight. For 3 days, Amara avoided Obi. Whenever she saw him approaching, she found another task to do. Whenever he tried to speak with her, she politely excused herself. Whenever he waited for her after work, she left through another path. The workers noticed immediately. The same people who had spent months watching their romance blossom now watched the distance growing between them. Whispers spread throughout the farm. "What happened?" "I don't know. They haven't spoken all week. Maybe they broke up." The rumors grew quickly, but neither Obi nor Amara paid attention. They were too busy dealing with their own pain. On the 4th day, Obi sat alone beneath the mango tree. The place felt empty without her. The silence felt unbearable. For months, this tree had been their sanctuary. Now it only reminded him of his mistakes. He replayed their final conversation endlessly. "I trusted you." Those 3 words haunted him. Because they were true. Amara had trusted him. Completely. And he had failed her. Nearby, Chinedu approached quietly. For a moment he simply stood there. Then he sat beside his cousin. "You look terrible." Obi laughed bitterly. "Thanks. I'm serious." "I know." Silence followed. Eventually, Chinedu sighed. "You should have told her sooner." Obi closed his eyes. "I know. Much sooner." "I know." The younger man looked toward the fields. "She isn't angry because of the test." Obi frowned. "What do you mean?" Chinedu turned toward him. "She's angry because everyone knew except her." The statement struck hard. Because it was true. Very true. Obi lowered his head. What do I do now? For a moment, Chinedu thought carefully. Then he answered honestly. Nothing. Obi looked surprised. What? Give her time. The younger man shrugged. You can't force someone to heal. As much as Obi hated hearing it, he knew his cousin was right. Meanwhile, miles away, Chief Okafor sat alone in his study. The billionaire stared out the window. For several days, he had been unusually quiet. Even his staff had noticed. His thoughts constantly returned to Amara, to the test, to his assumptions, to his mistakes. The more he reflected on everything, the worse he felt. He had spent months trying to prove she was dishonest. Months trying to expose selfish motives. Months looking for flaws. Instead, she had revealed flaws in him. His prejudice, his pride, his inability to trust people. For perhaps the first time in years, Chief Okafor felt ashamed. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in. The door opened. Chinedu entered. The billionaire immediately noticed his serious expression. What is it? The younger man didn't sit. Instead, he remained standing. They haven't spoken. Chief Okafor frowned. Who? Obi and Amara. The billionaire's heart sank. He had feared this. How bad is it? Chinedu sighed. Bad. Silence filled the room. Then the younger man said something unexpected. This is your fault. Chief Okafor looked up sharply. What? You heard me. Chinedu's voice remained calm. This is your fault. The billionaire remained silent. For once, he didn't argue, because deep down he knew it was true. The younger man continued. She passed every test. Chief Okafor nodded slowly. Yes. She proved everything. Another nod. Yes. Then what exactly did she gain from all this? The question lingered in the room. Chief Okafor had no answer, because the truth was simple. Amara had gained nothing. She had only suffered. The realization weighed heavily on him. After Chinedu left, the billionaire remained seated for a long time. Eventually, he stood, walked to the window, and made a decision that surprised even him. The following afternoon, a luxury vehicle appeared in the village. Children immediately began running after it. Villagers stopped whatever they were doing. People peered through windows. Others emerged from their homes. Vehicles like that rarely visited the area. When the car finally stopped, shock spread through the crowd, because everyone recognized the man who stepped out. Chief Okafor. The billionaire looked completely out of place among the simple village homes. Yet he didn't seem to care. Ignoring the curious stares, he began walking, straight toward Amara's house. Inside her small home, Amara was washing dishes when she heard voices outside. Curious, she stepped toward the door. The moment she opened it, she froze. Chief Okafor stood before her. For several seconds, neither spoke. The sight was so unexpected that Amara genuinely wondered if she was imagining it. The billionaire cleared his throat. May I come in? Amara blinked, then quickly stepped aside. Of course. Chief Okafor entered. His eyes immediately took in the small house. The worn furniture, the patched roof, the simple living conditions. For months he had judged this woman, yet he had never truly seen how she lived. The realization made him uncomfortable. Amara offered him a chair. He sat. She remained standing. The silence felt awkward. Neither seemed sure where to begin. Finally, Chief Okafor spoke. I owe you an apology. Amara stared at him. Of all the things she expected him to say, that wasn't one of them. The billionaire took a deep breath. Then he did something even more surprising. He lowered his head, a gesture of humility that few people had ever witnessed. I was wrong. The words hung in the air. Simple, honest, powerful. Amara remained silent. Chief Okafor continued. When I first met you, I judged you. His voice was calm. I looked at your circumstances and made assumptions. The billionaire sighed. I assumed I knew your character. Another pause. I didn't. Amara listened quietly. For the first time, she saw something she never expected from him. Regret. Genuine regret. Chief Okafor looked around the room, then back at her. I grew up poor too. The statement surprised her. What? He nodded. My father was a laborer. Amara stared. She had never heard this story before. The billionaire smiled sadly. I know what it means to struggle. His expression darkened. But somewhere along the way, I forgot. Silence followed. Then he continued. I spent so many years protecting my family that I became suspicious of everyone. Amara slowly sat down. For the first time, she truly listened. Not to a billionaire. Not to Obi's father. Just to a man admitting his mistakes. Chief Okafor took another deep breath. Every test was designed to expose selfishness. His voice softened. But all it exposed was my own prejudice. The honesty in the statement caught her off guard. The billionaire looked directly into her eyes. You passed every test. Amara looked away. I wasn't trying to pass anything. I know. The answer came immediately, and somehow that made it more meaningful, because she had never performed, never pretended, never tried to impress anyone. She had simply been herself. Chief Okafor smiled softly. That's why you succeeded. For several moments, silence filled the room. Then the billionaire spoke again. Obi loves you. Amara's heart tightened. The mention of his name still affected her. Chief Okafor noticed immediately. And you love him. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The expression on her face said everything. The billionaire nodded. I thought I was protecting him. His voice grew quieter. But I was hurting both of you. A painful silence followed. Then he said the words that mattered most. I'm sorry. Not a business apology. Not a formal apology. A genuine one. The kind that comes from the heart. Amara stared at him. For several seconds, neither moved. Then something unexpected happened. She believed him. Not because he was rich. Not because he was powerful. But because she could see the sincerity in his eyes. Finally, she smiled slightly. A small smile, but a real one. Chief Okafor immediately noticed. Hope appeared in his expression. Amara took a deep breath. You hurt me. The billionaire nodded. I know. You judged me. Another nod. I know. You made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Pain flashed across his face. I know. For a moment silence returned. Then Amara smiled sadly. But everyone makes mistakes. The billionaire looked up. Her next words nearly brought tears to his eyes. I forgive you. The room fell completely silent. Chief Okafor stared at her. For perhaps the first time in many years, he felt emotional. Not because of business. Not because of money. Because of grace. This woman had every reason to remain angry. Every reason to reject him. Yet she chose forgiveness. The choice humbled him. Slowly he stood. So that's it. Amara laughed softly. What else is there? The billionaire smiled. Then, for the first time since meeting her, he looked genuinely at peace. Before leaving, he stopped at the doorway. One final thought crossed his mind. There's something else. Amara looked up. What? A smile appeared on his face. Obi has been miserable. Despite herself, she laughed. I imagine he has. The billionaire nodded. Good. The response surprised both of them. Then they laughed together. A moment that would have seemed impossible only weeks earlier. As Chief Okafor walked back toward his vehicle, he felt lighter than he had in years. Because for the first time he wasn't leaving with doubts. He wasn't leaving with suspicions. He wasn't leaving with questions. He was leaving with certainty. Amara was exactly the woman Obi believed she was. And now, finally, Chief Okafor was ready to welcome her into the family. What neither of them knew was that Obi had already begun planning something important. Something life-changing. A moment that would soon erase months of pain. A moment that would change their lives forever. Because forgiveness had opened a door. And on the other side of that door waited a future neither of them had dared to imagine. 3 days after Chief Okafor visited Amara's home, life finally began to feel normal again. The tension that had hung over the farm for weeks seemed to disappear. Workers noticed it immediately. Amara smiled more often. Obi looked happier. Even the atmosphere around the farm felt lighter. The storm had finally passed. And for the first time in a long while, hope had returned. Amara had forgiven Chief Okafor. But more importantly, she had forgiven Obi. Not because she had forgotten what happened. Trust still needed time to heal completely. But she had seen how genuinely sorry he was. She had seen the regret in his eyes. She had seen how much he loved her. And she realized something important. Love wasn't about finding someone who never made mistakes. It was about finding someone willing to admit when they were wrong and fight to make things right. Obi had done exactly that. The evening after Chief Okafor's visit, Amara arrived at the mango tree. The familiar tree had witnessed so many important moments in their relationship. Their friendship, their first confession, their first kiss, their heartbreak. Now it would witness something else. Healing. Obi was already waiting when she arrived. The moment he saw her, he stood. Neither spoke at first. For several seconds, they simply looked at each other. Then Amara smiled. A real smile. Not forced. Not polite. A genuine smile. The kind Obi had missed terribly. Relief flooded through him. "Hi." Amara laughed softly. "Hi." For a moment, neither knew what to say. Then Obi spoke. "My father visited you." "He did." Obi looked nervous. "How did it go?" Amara folded her arms. "He talked too much." Obi blinked. "What?" She smiled. "He talks almost as much as you." For the first time in weeks, Obi laughed. The sound felt wonderful. A few moments later, Amara's expression softened. "He apologized." Obi nodded slowly. "I know. And I forgave him." The relief on Obi's face was immediate. Then Amara stepped closer. "And I forgive you too." The words hit him like a wave. For a brief moment he couldn't speak. His eyes became watery. "You do?" Amara nodded. "Yes." Before she could say anything else, Obi wrapped his arms around her. She hugged him back, both of them holding on tightly, neither wanting to let go. Months of tension melted away. Months of pain disappeared. For the first time since the truth had come out, everything felt right again. The following weeks became some of the happiest weeks of their lives. Without secrets standing between them, their relationship grew stronger than ever. Chief Okafor also surprised everyone. Instead of opposing the relationship, he openly supported it. He even began visiting the farm more often. The workers were shocked, especially when they saw him speaking kindly with Amara. The same billionaire who once wanted her gone now treated her with respect. Rumors spread quickly throughout the village. People couldn't believe it. Many of the women who had once mocked Amara now stared in disbelief. The orphan they had laughed at. The woman they said would never find love. The woman they claimed wasn't good enough. She had won the heart of one of the wealthiest men in the country. But what surprised them most was that Amara hadn't changed. Despite everything, she remained humble. She still worked, still helped others, still treated everyone kindly. The wealth surrounding Obi never changed who she was, and that only made people respect her more. Then, one beautiful evening, everything changed forever. The sun was setting. The fields glowed golden beneath the evening sky. A gentle breeze moved through the grass. Amara had just finished work when Obi approached her. He seemed unusually nervous. Immediately, she noticed. "What happened?" "Nothing." She narrowed her eyes. "You're lying." Obi laughed. "Come with me." Suspicion filled her expression. "Why?" "Just trust me." Amara smiled. "Those words make me nervous now." Obi groaned. "I deserved that." She laughed, then followed him. Together, they walked toward the mango tree. As they approached, Amara noticed something unusual. Lanterns hung from the branches. Flowers decorated the area. The ground had been carefully prepared. Her eyes widened. "What is all this?" Obi suddenly looked terrified, which made her even more curious. Then she noticed something else. People. Standing nearby, Chief Okafor, Chinidu, several farm workers, some villagers. Everyone was watching. A hand flew to her mouth. "Obi!" The nervous smile on his face answered everything. Slowly, he stepped forward. Then something happened that nobody expected. The strong woman who could outwork dozens of men suddenly felt weak. Because she knew what was coming. And she couldn't believe it. Obi reached into his pocket. The crowd became completely silent. Then he lowered himself onto one knee. Gasps erupted everywhere. Amara's eyes immediately filled with tears. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Obi looked up at her. His voice trembled slightly, not from fear, from emotion. Amara. Tears rolled down her cheeks. The crowd disappeared. The world disappeared. Only Obi remained. I spent my entire life looking for success. He smiled softly. I thought money was important. Another tear rolled down her cheek. I thought achievements were important. His voice became gentler. Then I met you. Amara covered her mouth, trying unsuccessfully to stop crying. You taught me that strength isn't measured by wealth. The crowd listened quietly. You taught me that kindness matters. Obi's eyes became emotional. You taught me what real love looks like. Several people wiped tears from their own eyes. Even Chief Okafor looked emotional. Then Obi opened a small ring box. A beautiful diamond ring sparkled inside. But Amara barely noticed it. She couldn't stop looking at him. The man who had changed her life. The man she loved. The man she wanted to spend forever with. Amara. His voice cracked slightly. Will you marry me? For a moment she couldn't answer. Tears streamed freely down her face. The crowd held its breath. Then Amara laughed through her tears. A beautiful laugh filled with joy. Yes. The crowd erupted. Cheers. Applause. Celebration. But Obi barely heard any of it. Because all he could focus on was her. He slipped the ring onto her finger. Then pulled her into his arms. The crowd celebrated around them. Chief Okafor smiled proudly. Chinidu laughed. Workers cheered loudly. Yet in that moment none of it mattered. Because they had finally overcome every obstacle standing between them. The wedding took place 4 months later. It became the biggest event the village had ever witnessed. People traveled from neighboring towns to attend. Luxury vehicles lined the roads. Important guests arrived from across the country. Business leaders, politicians, community leaders. Everyone wanted to witness the wedding. But despite the grandeur, the ceremony remained deeply personal. When Amara walked down the aisle, the entire crowd stood. She looked breathtaking. Her wedding dress was elegant. Her smile was radiant. Her eyes shone with happiness. Many guests became emotional, especially those who knew her story. The orphan girl, the farm worker, the woman who had once been mocked for being different. Now she stood proudly before hundreds of people. Not because wealth had changed her, but because love had found her. At the altar, Obi couldn't stop smiling. When their eyes met, neither looked away. The officiant spoke. The vows were exchanged. Promises were made. Then came the moment everyone had waited for. You may kiss the bride. The crowd erupted into applause. Amara laughed as Obi kissed her. A kiss filled with victory, love, and gratitude. The celebration lasted long into the night. Music filled the air. People danced, laughed, shared stories. For one evening, everyone forgot their troubles. Even Chief Okafor joined the festivities. At one point, he found himself standing beside Amara. The two looked out over the celebration together. You know, he said. Amara smiled. What? I almost ruined all of this. She laughed softly. Almost. The billionaire shook his head. You were too good for my test. Amara smiled. No. Chief Okafor looked confused. What do you mean? She glanced toward Obi. I was just in love. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the billionaire smiled. A genuine smile. The kind that came from deep within. Years passed, and their happiness only grew. Despite their wealth, Amara never forgot where she came from. She established programs to help struggling farmers. She funded schools for orphan children. She created opportunities for people who had once faced the same hardships she endured. The villagers who once mocked her now spoke about her with admiration. Children looked up to her. Women respected her. Men admired her strength and generosity. She became a symbol of hope. Meanwhile, Obi remained as devoted as ever. Whenever reporters or business associates asked him the secret to his happiness, he always gave the same answer. One evening, years later, a young journalist asked him directly, "What made you fall in love with Amara?" Obi smiled. The answer came instantly. It wasn't her strength. The journalist looked surprised. "No," Obi shook his head. Then he looked across the garden where Amara was laughing with several children. His eyes softened. It was her heart. And even after all those years, saying those words still made him smile. Because no amount of wealth could compare to what he had found in her. As the sun set behind their beautiful home, Amara walked over and slipped her hand into his, just as she had done countless times before. Obi squeezed her hand gently. She rested her head against his shoulder, and together they watched the sky turn gold. For years, Amara had searched for a place where she belonged, a place where she was accepted, a place where she was loved. Now she finally understood something beautiful. Home was never a house. Home was never wealth. Home was never status. Home was the person who chose to stay. And through every challenge, every mistake, every test, and every triumph, Obi had chosen her, just as she had chosen him. And together, they lived a long, beautiful, and happy life. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to this channel.